Let's check in with the doc and look at things with a wider lens. Pastor Richards on OMG.
All right, so we're going to wait on our call from Pastor Richards.
You know, whenever a doc comes on the stream, the live stream goes wild as well. Too, everybody has questions for the doc.
Hello, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Danilo.
How are you?
I'm all right, thank you. Well, I'm relatively all right. I just actually said to myself I should be in the circus.
In the circus?
Juggling thing.
Oh, there you go.
Just juggle,
Nice.
you know.
Yeah.
I mean,
the amount concern there.
I mean, sometimes you cut it down to the second. I'm outside. I'm doing something. I'm checking. Oh my word, it's 9:30. I gotta make a call.
There you go.
Thanks
Mario,
for always making time for us.
Yeah. But this is multiple things that you got to do. You got to juggle them. Each of them has their time. Little square that they need to fit into. Mario, you know what? Last night, something you said yesterday just out of the blue just made me chuckle. I'm like, this guy, I missed that.
Oh, what did I say now?
Labyrinth of madness. You have no idea how much I appreciated that. These subtle little witty remarks out of the blue. If you catch it, you catch it. If you don't catch it, you don't catch it. And you don't care to explain. I love it. I don't know if we should be laughing and having fun on a morning like this, but
hey, we need to find joy wherever we can, while acknowledging that danger is real in the world.
It's real. I've never once, in all of my commentaries, denied the reality of the thing and the devastation that it can cause. Even in my article, I wrote about the havoc that it is wreaking in some countries. So it's real. We have cases here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines yesterday evening. We heard of another case. And actually this morning I listened to the concerns on this station. Yesterday I listened elsewhere, but this morning I listened to the concerns and perspectives shared by the people, because, I mean, you have to validate them. One of the, let me just as an aside, a segue into my New Year's resolution, I made a big resolution to listen, more this year. So you will listen to people. You want to disagree with you and you don't really want to hear what they're saying. Listen, because people have reasons for saying what they say, and people feel and people want to express what they feel. So don't be too quick to disregard when somebody is speaking or sharing their perspective. And so I listened to the various perspectives that were shared on this station this morning by the commentators and by the people who called in and expressed how they felt. And I felt a common thread coming out of these concerns and perspectives plural. And honestly, the common thread is this, that there is a measure of confusion over the releases, these most recent releases that are coming out of the new case. And when what was he saying? 1,000 Frenchmen or 100,000 Frenchmen can't be wrong.
Yeah.
But there are concerns coming from every direction. So there must be something in what they're saying. There must be some validity or something that they're not getting in relation to the news releases. So those who are on the side of putting these together and putting them out there, let's listen and hear what is being said, and not to necessarily direct these next few statements to the releases specifically, but in terms of normative practice, mind you, I'm saying, when it comes to news releases, some things that you would want to note and that would be appreciated and that would help to clear up the confusion. And matters of gravity such as this, as the COVID-19, I would suggest the following, as others before me have done. We really need to keep them simple. I heard somebody, I think it may have been you, Mario, or somebody said it seemed that they were convoluted in the sense that they kind of going through a labyrinth. Can I use your word?
Yes, you may.
And so you had to weave your way to get to what needed to be said. And it needs to be simple. I would agree with those who are calling for simplicity, because we are not speaking necessarily to all people of the same academic, but we're speaking to all of our Vincentians, and we want everyone to get it. And so keep it simple. Also clear. Now, there's a nuance between keeping it simple and clear, in the sense that you don't want to put in other verbiage in there. You want, because that messes up the picture, you want people to get the picture, get only what is vital, so you keep it clear. But thirdly, as I listen to the concern and the perspective, the concerns and the perspective, it seems to me that some of the opinions that were shared suggested that there might have been certain biases in the way the news releases were framed, and this would not be said unless the releases themselves lend themselves to basically it left room for this accusation to be made. So you want to be sure that when you are putting things together, that it is so transparent, and the more simple you keep it and the clearer it is, then it facilitates this measure of transparency where people won't be able to say that you're being convoluted just to put out a particular bias or design the news release to suit a particular need or a particular end. Now, a more substantial matter concerns the consistency, because I heard Daniel and others talk about the fact that, man, you had two news releases on this particular matter, and there was not the highest level of congruence in terms of one was basically matching the other in every way, but there are instances of inconsistencies in one as opposed to the other, and one seems to be correcting the one instead of the other. And even if they're coming out of two different branches, it is one common issue, Mario. One common issue, and therefore the core of it should be common, whether it is coming out from health or it's coming out from Nemo. Right. And so once you have an inconsistency on a matter of such gravity, it does not lend itself to reassurance at all. So I am, again, making a normative suggestion that for all news releases, that there needs to be this level of consistency in the format, in the style, and in the content. And the last is a little bit tricky. The last suggestion that I have here is a little bit tricky in terms of being informative, because on this one I don't envy those who are writing the releases, because it's supposed to be a news brief. You follow me there?
Yeah.
It is supposed to be a news brief, but some people want the news brief to be loaded with information, and then, once it is loaded with information, it is deemed to be informative. And then when it is not loaded with information, people out there are going to say you're selective with the facts. So the question, therefore, is how much really should, and as a leader myself, I have battled with this, in terms of communicating. How much should I tell? How much should I convey? How much should I release? Yeah. And how much is within the purview of the leader himself? Yes. So these are things that I struggle with, because you can't really dump everything onto the public. You tell people what they need to know, but then when you make that decision as a leader and one who is controlling the news release, when you make that decision as to this is the information that needs to be put out, almost in 100% of the cases you are withholding information, and I think rightfully so. I don't think that it is within the purview and the interest of the public to have all follow me. This is a tricky thing to say, that's why I'm saying it. You have to manage what you dispense and what you put out there, what is relevant, what needs to be really, and you have to give the public what they need to know. But my particular take is that there are things that you, in the inside machinery, working on, details that you're working on that you don't need to burden the public with. So that is a little bit of a dicey matter as to how informative the news release. But I wanted to say all of that in relation to the perspectives that I've been hearing, that there is in fact a little bit of confusion over the news releases. Now, can I switch gears?
Sure.
Okay,
Sure.
now, the second part of my commentary, I want to occupy myself with what thoughts should shape our response here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I know we have many listeners who are in USA and in Canada and elsewhere, but I'm talking about what thoughts should shape those of us who are here on the ground in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. How should we be responding this week? There's an additional case, and frankly speaking, there's likely to be more. I mean, this is our reality. No one is ever denying that. When the first case came here, I said, well, everything begins with one. There's going to be more. I don't know if you remember me saying that, Daniel. You're going to have more cases with the sailors and other workers who are going to be expatriated back home here. This is going to be the case. So bear that in mind. People are going to be recovering. Hear me? And hear me well. People are going to be recovering, but people are also, you're going to find that if you bring 200 people back here or 300 people back here, there's a possibility that all 300 would not be all clear. There's a possibility that some of them are probably going to be carrying the virus. So, and that is going to jack up our numbers once they get tested. Furthermore, here's a second reality. And I heard some people this morning trying to nuance the terms transmission and spread and all of that. The thing is a virus. And there is transmission. There's a possibility of transmission. So you can't rule out that somebody has the virus in St. Vincent and there's not going to be transmission, whether you lock down or you don't lock down. Right. I was watching the Chris Cuomo thing there with him and his family, and he was in the basement and he was trying to be so cautious in total lockdown there, and then you heard that his wife, you heard his wife, and then you found out that the children, and then you heard anecdotes coming in that even when you lock down, hear me please, even when you're on a lockdown, somehow the virus gets transmitted, and more readily in some situations than in others, but the virus gets transmitted. So I am not absolutely alarmed or shocked at any news that, you know, somebody had the virus. We have had 12 imported cases, and then you hear suspicions of finally there is the possibility of transmission. Well, however you nuance it and define the term and pass the word, transmission is transmission, and you can't rule out transmission of a virus.
Right.
Touch, contact, put it to your face, your nose, there's a possibility of transmission, and not just one, but multiple. So we have to be aware of this. So, again, shaping our response, we have to ask, given the possibility of transmission here in St. Vincent, we will be fools, we will be dummy to rule that out. Although my contention continues to be that there are some peculiarities here, and this is not just an opinion, this is based on what the science is saying, that, you know, the kind of behavior of the virus here is not necessarily going to match elsewhere, so I'm still counting on that unless the science disproves that, right? So the fact that there's going to be transmission, there are two things that we have to bear in mind that will shape our response. First of all, you have to ask yourself, what is your social responsibility? Your social responsibility is, in other words, even if you want to be flamboyant, you want to be cavalier with your attitude, you still have a responsibility, because if you are infected, whether or not you know it, there's a possibility that you could infect others as you go to the store, as you go to the bank, as you go on the bus or wherever. So the kind of things that have been said by the ministry and by other responsible people, you have to adhere. And the number one thing is going out in public and wearing a mask.
Right.
That is protecting others. That is making the assumption, boy, even if I have not been tested, I may very well have the virus. Let me protect other people from this.
Right.
But then outside of that, what is your individual responsibility? Your individual responsibility is protecting yourself and, again, having educating yourself as to how the virus spreads and doing the things that prevent or curb the spread of the virus. Right. And even the top-notch people are saying, man, nothing beats washing your hands, keeping your hands away from your eyes and your nose and your mouth.
Right.
I mean, even the top-notch people are saying that's how you basically protect yourself. You stay away from people who are coughing. So that continues to be your individual responsibility, especially over the next couple of weeks when we are likely to hear that the case, and for obvious reasons, we are likely to hear that the cases in St. Vincent are going up. Then you have to begin to shape your social responsibility and your individual responsibility. Before I conclude,
sure,
some things that I want you to bear in mind to shape your attitude. This has been a current discussion over the past week by the top scientists that I've been listening to, and many of you have listened to, so you would concur that I'm not making this up. They are now talking about the shelf life of the virus.
Yeah.
And interesting discussions that they're having in terms of not just the COVID-19 disease and the novel coronavirus. I am made to understand that the COVID-19, that's the disease itself, and when you have it, and that the novel coronavirus is referring to that which is transmitted. And they're saying that this virus, like SARS and MERS and a couple of other things, they actually have a shelf life on the world stage. As they have studied them, there is the pop-up, there is the escalation increase. They use word like peak. The virus reaches a peak, and then the virus is on the decline, and then it subsides on the world stage.
Right.
And they're saying, now this is very important, that's why I'm sharing it. They're saying that this particular virus, coronavirus, that has wreaked havoc, has basically followed, now hear me well because I'm going to get some pushback. They're saying that it has, and you have listened to them yourself, so you know that they have said that it has done the pop-up, it has escalated, it has reached its peak, and throughout all of the major regions, and has been caused great damage, but throughout all of the major regions of the world where it has caused the damage, it has now followed the pattern and is headed towards decline.
Right.
With one caveat, I'll come to the caveat. It is headed towards the decline. Before I come to the caveat, and let me explain what is precipitating the decline. What is precipitating the decline in large measure? Some is saying, well, it's the stay-at-home thing, but there is a coincidence of occurrence between this movement into the decline phase and the warming up of temperatures all across these countries. It is no idle speculation, and it is no mere coincidence, although I use the word coincidence. There's no mere coincidence that the warming of temperatures is coinciding with the decline of the spread of the virus. That is something to watch. And the science is now coming out, and again, I saw multiple articles. Last weekend was only one, but then into the week I saw others that said that over the summer, when temperatures are warm, and I heard it on multiple broadcasts last night, when the temperatures are warm, this virus is going to go into recession. In fact, the exact word that was used is a word we don't use it a lot, is diminution. The diminution of the virus. You are hearing scientists and people talk about now the diminution of the virus in warm temperatures. Here's the caveat. The caveat is this, that when the warm temperatures go away, as they will in certain countries, not in Vincent, and you swing back towards winter, that the thing is going to come back with a vengeance. So what they're doing there, Mario, they are actually saying and directly correlating the behavior and the swings and the shelf life of the virus, they're making no bones about it. They are making a direct correlation between the shelf life and the swings of the virus and the climatic conditions. This is something I've been saying. Now, my consolation here in St. Vincent is that we are not susceptible to such swings in our climatic conditions, in our temperatures and all of that. And so we have basically perpetual summer. We might vary by 2 or 3 degrees, but we have a perpetual summer here in the Caribbean. So we have to be consoled by this kind of argument. It is not speculation. We are actually in a situation that they are begging for, longing for when temperatures warm up and there's going to be diminution of the virus. Well, we have that here. So let's be consoled by that.
Isn't there a high incidence in India as well, too?
What's that?
Isn't there a high incidence in India as well? And India is pretty hot.
India and not relative to, and Africa also, and I was about to make the point, I think it was either Chile or Ecuador also, but not in terms of per capita like Italy or and Spain and France, which were really taking a punch, all right? Right. So, and again, I'm just going by what the scientists say. This is not my field, so I could only parrot and repeat what they're saying, right? And they're actually making the correlation between the warmer temperatures and the shelf life of the thing, and actually saying when it gets cold again, watch out, and it's even going to come back with a vengeance. So my consolation is good thing that I am here in St. Vincent, where I am not going to be susceptible to that. But I am not saying, don't get me wrong, I am not saying that,
flippant about it.
we won't get the thing here.
Yes.
No, I have never said that. I am just saying that one will lead to more and that there's going to be spread. However, that the survivability of the virus in our condition is not going to be as high as it is elsewhere, which is something that we ought to appreciate and something that we ought to thank God for. In my closing, how should we, the government and the people, react, given all that I said, given the fact that it is likely to grow, but given the fact that we have some nuances here in our conditions that really don't help the virus to spread rapidly. It will spread, but it won't be spreading as rapidly. We won't have the kind of devastation. I perceive that we won't have the kind of devastation. Given all of the above, mind you, we won't have the kind of devastation here as elsewhere. Given all of that, how should we react? I said yesterday, absolutely not in a cavalier fashion, but with absolute caution, taking every social responsibility, individual responsibility. But outside of that, I am guided by two things that the Holy Word of God, which is authoritative in my life, says that I really don't need to be anxious. It says, don't be anxious for nothing. Don't be anxious for anything. Be anxious for nothing. So should I therefore not have an appreciation of what the virus can do? No, that's not what I'm saying. I am saying my reaction to it should not be with this high level of anxiety and panic. The scripture goes on to say, but in everything, bring the matter to God in prayer and supplication. So this is something, some might discount it as having no value, but to me it has real value. That I am not going to get myself twisted into a pretzel over the thing. I'm going to do what I can do. I'm going to be as responsible as I can be, and I'm going to keep putting the matter in the hand of God for my protection and the protection of the nation. And secondly, which I really want people to ponder on as I leave this, God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of love, and basically it comes down to say of sound mind. And this particular passage of scripture deliberately juxtaposes fear with sound mind as two basically very binary. Either you're going to be consumed with this spirit and attitude of fear, or you're going to have sound mind. And this has been the basis of my argument throughout, that I hear people fanning the flames of fear and deliberately introducing the spirit of fear. You could be informed, you could appreciate danger, without having this spirit of fear. And if a spirit of fear is there, I believe that it is ungodly. It doesn't come from God. God does not give us a spirit of fear. So what is the antidote to the spirit of fear. The antidote to the spirit of fear is what is bashed by a lot of people. They would much rather embrace a spirit of fear rather than the antidote that God provides. He says you need to have a sound mind instead. The spirit of fear, he says, does not come from me, but the sound mind comes from me. So in this, Mario, I have the choice of choosing a spirit of fear, which is ungodly, or I have a choice of approaching this matter with a sound mind. Some might call it academics, some might call it pseudo-intellectual behavior, or whatever it is, but it is a sound mind. God wants us to be thinking this thing through clearly, cogently, and with a sound mind. And I don't think we should bash people who would say, hold up, let us think this through. Let us not panic. Let us not overreact. Let us gauge our reaction. Let us gauge our behavior. Let our behavior be informed. Let us not move into panic mode and do drastic things. Let us think it through. That is what a sound mind lends itself to. So if there are people out there who are operated on the basis of sound mind, I applaud you and say your behavior is godly. If there are people who are driving the spirit of fear, then I censor you and say that that is ungodly. But I'm not saying do not appreciate the danger. Appreciate the danger, but approach it with a sound mind. Think things through. That's the best approach.
Doc, as you're wrapping up, I just got to ask one thing here. For what about those who are trying to practice being of sound mind, but are suffering paralysis by analysis because of the report that's just saying this, that, and the other?
Mario, you opened the door. I don't know if I have it, but you opened the door, so let me answer it. People have been bashing.
You're shaking your head at me right now.
People have been bashing a lack of response. And as a leader, I happen to know that sometimes a lack of immediate reactive response might be the very best action that you can take. Think it through.
All right.
To react without thinking for the sake of reacting and say, well, I did something. In fact, a little adage that you will get in leadership. There are instances when to do nothing is the best thing that you can do. I know there are some who will trash that. But at the same time, too, I am not advocating just sitting on your hands. I am basically, by making that statement, I am saying before you overreact or before you react to anything, then you should really think what I'm going to do, why I'm going to do it, how am I going to walk my way through this, and what's going to be the course when it's all said and done. However, to your point of paralysis by analysis, you can't just think, and not act, because that is what I think you're referring to, where you overanalyze and you don't take necessary action. Good leaders know when they're in that optimal groove, when you have sufficiently assessed something in order to take action. I really think actually it is bad leadership just to act without, necessarily. Christ himself said, look, listen, who dares build a house and not calculate the cost? He says you should first sit down and think things through, and then you go and do what you want to do, okay? So I think that is good biblical teaching, that not necessarily that you don't act, but you don't just very quickly give a trigger knee-jerk reaction, but the Bible advocates that you should also not just sit and do nothing. It says really think things through, and then you begin to do what you need to do.
There you go.
How about that?
I like it, Doc. Thank you so much.
All right, take care, man. All right, bye.
Let's check in with the doc and look at things with a wider lens. Pastor Richards on OMG.